Hey there, good morning. Happy Monday. Courageous in creation, community, all the chaos going on. Two new dogs. Well, no, one new dog in my house. So, hi Kelly. So things are going on a little cray cray over here with all the little puppy energy. So, happy Monday. 'Tis the season, right? How are you feeling with your the hustle and bustle of the holiday season, right? Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Oh boy. Yep. Just the type of morning it is.
Yeah. I could not figure out with the new update how to go live. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. I need support. So thank you for your support, Leanna. I could not figure it out. I wonder if Peter's joining through the Synergy.
Probably, yeah. I just sent him an invite. We are so honored to have our courageous warrior of the month for December joining us. I'm going to mute my mic for a little bit until the pups shut up.
What's in my head right now is reunited and it feels so good.
Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning, Peter.
Good
How are
morning. Great. I'm great. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Miss Glenda, how are you? We miss you so much. So, Peter.
Yes, my love.
Tell our audience a little about you, and we absolutely adore who you are and what you stand for, and we have completed all of your programs individually at separate times, except for Cynthia and I pretty much did almost everything except for basic together. We would love to just hear what created this for you, like how. Thank you, Glenda.
Okay. Hi, Glenda. How we're connected is through Synergy. We have the Synergy Group, which Angel and I began 11 years ago. And 11 years ago, we the kind of training and development that we do, which is, to put in broad buckets, adult education, self-awareness, empowerment, tools for effectiveness, that general bucket, for me is something I've been doing for almost 40 years. And we started Synergy 11 years ago. And we started 3 companies with 3 different kind of missions. And Synergy Education is how we all know each other from the public curriculum that we run primarily in New York City, but we've been in many different places after these years around the globe. So we also have our programs in Greece. We deliver in Spanish. So there's lots of different expansion around Synergy Education, but it's public conversation and it's like a person by person, pass it on kind of thing. And Synergy Business is where we do our corporate work inside of, which is a variation of the programs that we do, the core inside of organizations, large and small. We've done that, nonprofits, any kind of thing that is qualified as an organization. And then we have our own nonprofit, which is Synergy Youth Empowerment, which again is a version of our, the core of our training and curriculum, but tailored for primarily teens. And, in the last 2 years with COVID, we haven't run any courses with Synergy Youth Empowerment because, I have a daughter who's 13 and twins that are 10, and she doesn't want to spend one more second on Zoom than she has to. This year they're in person, although we're very afraid now there's talk of going back to remote again. But for a year and a half, they did remote schooling, and that was really challenging. But she can't wait Charlotte can't wait to do the teen basic. So that's the general background on Synergy and, my background.
We want to just thank you for entertaining this, by the way, too. You were nominated, as we have our Courageous Warriors now monthly, and you were nominated, and we were all more than excited to have you and that you would join us. Can you just talk about, because we also like to talk about when we're showing up powerfully and being courageous, there's often adversities that come about. Like, can you just share a little bit just what the last 2 years have looked like for you and how you guys were able to still provide those empowering offerings to everybody?
To be honest, I feel the last 10 years has been challenging. So, the last 2 years has just been a twist on that. But the last 10 years, just like the latest, okay, great, let's keep on chugging. I think that, listen, I'm much older than you all. So when I was your age, I think adversity, like real adversity, didn't hit me until my 40s. And gosh, I guess it's courageous. I know that's the theme of the conversation, is around being courageous. And you know what? Not I guess. Yes, it is. It is courageous to keep pushing forward with something that you feel is meaningful. And one of the challenges that I found is, how do you do that without kind of, your head going down into the dirt? Like, how do you do both things at the same time? Because I think that there's a strength within all of us where you can push through in general. Not always, but a lot of the time. For me, it's more like, how do you, what's the you through that equation? And how do you stay, I don't know, true to, because true to sounds a little bit morally to me, but consistent with what the whole point of the thing was to begin with. You guys know us. I don't know who's watching this, but you guys know Angel and my life quite intimately. And, there's many other things that he and I could have chosen to do that would have been easier than the work that we've been doing at Synergy. And we had many conversations, to be frank, over the years. And we have, we have on a regular basis re-chosen the commitment that had us create Synergy 11 years ago. And it, for me, it continues to provide what my original intention was, which is a sense of community, a sense of inside of, like, the human component of life, like the intimacy and vulnerability and honesty and challenge and all the things that relationships bring. So Synergy continues to provide that in my life. And so every time we would come to a choice point, we would re-choose for that reason. And I think the last 2 years, when COVID hit, so in March of 2020, that the first weekend of March was a level 1 breakthroughs weekend. And I had just returned from Israel because I'd been leading some organizational things at the end of February and beginning of March. And I got off the plane, I came and I led level 1. And I remember flying back, and I talked to the flight attendant and I said, "Are you concerned about this COVID conversation?" Because there was starting to be, what's this going to do to the airline industry and the travel industry? And she said, no, it's going to be fine. And I think that none of us really, of course, knew what was to come. And when we had our last weekend in March, we had a packed house. If you guys were there, it was a packed house. And then, of course, everything changed. Like that second week of March in New York City is when things began to shut down. And so that happened to us. Angel and I got COVID that March. That was challenging. So right at the beginning, we had different experiences, but it was scary at the time. Nothing serious enough that put us in the hospital or anything like that, but it was all unknown and everybody was freaking out. And so I think that it took me a couple of months to understand how were we supposed to keep Synergy alive through in a world where we can't be together in person, because obviously that's not anything that I had ever known. It's not like we're in the tech industry. It's not like we're doing, R&D. It's not like we're, I don't know, we're in that kind of industry where it's just all about human connection and touch and experience and the rest of it. And I didn't have an imagination about how that could look online. And so I think it took some time to even, the beginning was even imagining that it was possible. And I started myself doing some things online within our graduate community, like doing a refresher for the basic and doing Friday Night Live videos and doing things that began the journey of getting familiar and comfortable in this new environment. And also needing to understand how all the deeply intimate, tactile, connection, vulnerable components of what we do, how the hell are you supposed to do that in this world? So I think it took us a little bit to imagine that. And I think it was around August, we did our first kind of basic weekend. I think there was 8 people, because I'm sure our graduate community couldn't imagine it either. But we did, and it's been extraordinary. And by Sunday night of whatever weekend we're leading, people are expressing the same things that they always did in person. And I'm not going to say it's the same, because it's not, but it doesn't, but okay, lots of things aren't the same, but it doesn't mean it has to be one or the other. And so for me, it's been unbelievably powerful. Now we have almost 2 years of graduates who I've never met in person, which is also weird, but so it's a long answer to your question, but that's what the last 2 years have been.
No, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I actually want to go back to being a young 19-year-old boy choosing this. I know at 40, I realized a lot of the things that were important really, became way less important. But at 19, to have that knowing and that passion to continue and to be courageous at 19 to jump into this kind of transformational, experiential kind of growth and learning is huge. I would love to hear a little bit about that from you.
Well, so it came to me, okay? It wasn't something I was seeking out, which I think is often how it happens for people. I was bartending in London at a wine bar, and these people came in, and to me they were weird and overly expressive for English people, and a little too happy. And they became kind of regulars. So they invited me. Now I look back at some version of kind of an introduction session or something. I'd never heard anything of the sort. I didn't know anything about it. I think probably all I had was some cynicism that somebody was going to try and sell me something. So I think that's really all that was going on for me. And I ended up obviously going, and I ended up attending this seminar. And it's so interesting because, what is almost 40 years ago, and that was like $600 40 years ago, which for a bartender 40 years ago was an unbelievable. I can't believe that I figured that out, but I did. I'm not even sure. I don't even feel like that I was so excited about it, but I still did it anyway. And then when I got in there and I was in that environment and back then this was kind of 1981, 82 sort of thing. It was unbelievably intense and unbelievably hot in terms of, I was scared out of my mind, the intensity and the drama and it blew my mind. I'm like, okay, this is amazing. I knew I didn't want to be a banker. Okay. I had started my university in engineering, which if you know me, that's the most ridiculous choice. I really wanted to be an architect is what I was heading to. But in the end, I just okay, all those other ideas, forget that. This is me. I'd never seen kind of like a setup. I'd never seen an environment where it's not like I'd never seen people be honest, and of course I had seen all those things, but an environment where the depth of those kinds of conversations was unbelievably intense and incredible and revealing and created breakthroughs and, and I don't know. And, you were like nervous and scared, but you couldn't wait to get back for the next session. And I mean, that's exactly how it felt to me. And then I joined this company. And so I left my promising career as a bartender and went to work at this company called Programs Limited, which doesn't exist anymore. And we worked day and night. And after we finished working, we would go into seminars together for 2 hours, and we would start at 7 a.m. doing seminars. And it was like the most amazing time of my life. So it just was, and being with people who you could have the most, I don't know, difficult, awkward, intimate, revealing kinds of conversations. And even when you screwed up, you could work it through with them. And it was like amazing. So I don't know, I'd never been taken by anything like that. So I think for me, I was like at a table and there was, I don't know, broccoli and rice. And then there was this like lobster over here. I'm like, okay, that's me. That's what I want. That's like, that's exciting. So I don't know. It just kind of found me, April. It just kind of like came to that.
Well, and as I'm sure I can speak for both of them, being able to experience you and Angel and all of the beautiful people that are dedicated to Synergy, it shows. It's like part of who you are. It's not necessarily and I expected that. It shows you, a lot of the times that's what happens.
Yeah.
Most of the time that's what happens. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And let me just also say, I'm so grateful for Jan and Alan, who were the couple that came in, who didn't know me. They didn't have to know me. They came on their time off to sit and have a drink and relax, but they extended themselves more than one time. And they encouraged me more than one time, because I would have, had they been tepid, I don't know, maybe some other way might have happened, but this way wouldn't have happened. And so, and for they didn't get anything in particular out of that. So I'm very grateful for them. And then, for all the people who've been that kind of person for me, because on my own devices, I don't know, certainly that wasn't on my horizon. So I just wanted to put that part in.
Yeah, I love that actually, because, we can't do this life alone. And I know that I have tried, I'm 47, I'll be 48 soon. And I've tried 45 years of my life trying to do it alone and fix everybody. So I appreciate, and you have been a pivotal moment in time in my life to shift that, and gave permission for myself to shift that and become really aware that that's what I was doing. So we can't do this alone. And you and Synergy and your family definitely have changed my life. And I know the other two ladies that are here, theirs as well. You actually have been an inspiration for how Courageous in Creation has started. So we are very grateful for you and how you stand in this world. And I know both of them have something to ask you, so I'll shut up now.
Because I know she's been holding on to something for
No, just the dogs are more okay. Just listen then, because I do a lot of talking a lot, so I just listen. But I love, I find it so interesting that you had this opportunity presented to you at such a young age, and I feel like there gets to be this accessibility to people of all ages, but how powerful it would have been, I know for myself and perhaps for these ladies, to have had this experience at a young age when it might have been maybe not to sound like, wow, it was hard to shed all the bullshit, but like maybe when less bullshit is there to shed, or it's a little easier to, it hasn't been piled up as long, and we haven't been living in it as long, our stories. And so I just think it gets to be such a powerful and almost imperative experience for younger people, and how, in my opinion, much more productive and forwarding and loving we would all be as an experience of humanity if we were exposed to these opportunities at a younger age, which is, I know, what I think a little bit of Synergy Youth Empowerment is about, and is something that you're really passionate about. So perhaps there's, something that you can kind of elaborate on there when it does come to these types of conversations amongst young people.
Yeah, I do think that. And I think that doing the work we do doesn't save you from, and it doesn't save you from challenges, and it doesn't save you from being an asshole, and it doesn't save you from screwing up other people's lives, and it doesn't save you from anything that anybody else experiences. I think throughout my life, what this work has given me is optimism. And you guys are using the word being courageous, and in a version, just not stopping. So I think it hasn't saved me from making bad choices. Maybe I made less. I don't know. There's no way to know. It hasn't saved me from, all those other things. What this work does give people is an understanding that, we use the phrase that you matter, right? So you guys know that. And that, when people have the experience of mattering, which is not really a word, but we know what we mean, then you shift. One of the things that I remember back when I was 19 or 20, in this conversation for the first time, is somebody told me I was responsible for the world around me. And I was responsible for the condition of my family. And I was responsible for, if I wanted to get really crazy, for everything that's happening in the world. And not I'm responsible, I got to feel bad or something. No, it was an empowering point of view, because I could then look around, and all the places that I would otherwise be a victim in life, or complaining in life, or blaming in life, or whatever, none of that was satisfactory. I mean, I could do that for a little bit, but then what? What am I going to do about it? If it really means something to me, otherwise shut the fuck up. But if it really means something to me, then what are you going to do about it? So for me, that's one of the main premise of the work we do with the teens, is it's not just about that you matter, yes, and that's transformational for people, and it's not intellectual. So if there's anybody listening that hasn't participated in the work, that sounds very simplistic, and it does sound simplistic, but it's not simplistic when you have the experience of that, when you have a reckoning with all the places where you have sold out for excuses and stories and reasons and dramas and all the stuff that we all do in our lives. So when you can give that kind of connection to people who are 15 years old or 16 years old or 14 years old, dealing with how complicated life is for all of us, we've all walked through it at this point, but when you're in the midst of that, how desperate that time can feel, or difficult that time can feel, or the pressures of that time, to connect people to that is extraordinary. So I am passionate about that around working with youth. We've done a lot of work in connection with organizations in New York City, like Harlem Children's Zone and East Side House, high schools in Mid-Hudson Valley. We've worked, actually that last trip that I took before COVID, I was doing a corporate gig, but we also did a teen workshop in Tel Aviv for a youth group, which is really like challenged teens. And it's not funny, but in September, I went back to Israel, which was the first trip that we took. And I met with the woman who sourced that teen workshop, and she said that so many of those teens had changed their lives after that weekend. One of them was now on TV, doing like a TV show that she was doing. Like, she just went through the stories. And I also find it doesn't take much to light spark in people. It's not like 16 years of the salt mines. No, it's like a weekend or 2 weekends or a month or whatever. And then the whole trajectory of one's future can be different. And again, it doesn't save you from heartache or upset or mistakes or whatever, but it does add something that isn't available otherwise. So that was my experience and commitment around working with young people, is to light that fire, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Carbon 2K, which I wish I knew your name, says you change lives, Peter.
Thank you, Carbon 2K.
And you do. I can attest to that for sure. I definitely am grateful, because I don't know if I would be where I am today had I not experienced what I had experienced through your programs, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the word responsibility, because it's actually funny, because you gave us permission in our own way because of all of your experiences and who you are and show up as, to create, this, as April said. And that was one of our first workshops that we had executed during COVID. And it's funny, because as I'm listening to you, I'm just seeing the trickle down of experience, because everything that you're offering and saying, like when you met those people, like it was kind of like, this is it. Like, I'm into this. Like when you first started doing it. And I feel like I can speak for us. Like that's exactly our experience. And then you get to carry it with you. And what I was seeing as you were talking is you really offer in your programs permission for people to like get their feet out of the fucking quicksand, like like to not stay there in the muck and do something with it, because like you said, and I have to say, Peter, everybody that I know that has experienced what you guys offer, for the most part, has done something to move forward powerfully in their life that they were maybe stuck around for quite a bit, and kind of shedding, the muck, I'm going to call it, the quicksand, in some of your programs, I think is what allows people to really show up super powerfully, and then, take responsibility for their lives, because it's also, I say it's a little bit in your face too, where you guys are, I always say, coddling doesn't really often work for anybody, when we coddle those things, and kind of it supports us in staying there, so that's like, just hearing your story and your journey, I'm like, that's like everything that he is. Because I remember even April and I sitting in class, we looked at each other one day and we were like, this is it. This is exactly what you said. Like, we're doing some version of this and working with Synergy for the rest of. So thank you.
Yeah. Cynthia, hi, Tom. That was Tom. So Carbon, hi, Tom. What this distills down for me very often is choice, which we talk about. And I encounter people all the time who, I think there's elements of life that we can choose, and there's elements of life that we can't choose. Now, I could talk about that later, but it doesn't mean the things you can't choose, it doesn't mean you can't choose them. If you know what I mean. So fine, okay, I'm 58. That's it. So I can choose it or I can't choose it. What's my relationship with being 58? The work of transformation for me always has come down to, in what way do you want to live your life? And if you want to, and I don't mean that judgy, if you're making the choice to stay here over here, and you're going to say that I'm going to stay over here with all that brings, then that's as equally responsible as this me over here choosing I want to be confronted about my own crap and whatever. So, but I in my opinion, that when you talked about, coddling people, I think that we all can use, kind of a little cold water over our heads from time to time. And, or maybe that's not a great metaphor, maybe a mirror shown up about how we are in our lives and what's not working. But that takes being interested in it, right? Because I show mirrors to people all the time, and sometimes they're not that interested in it. So, and that's also fine. Okay, fine. But for me, the difference, and I've also met lots of people, Cynthia, who later, I've led, I don't know, you've heard me say this, but over 100,000 people over these years, probably much more than that, because I stopped counting years ago at that number. But I've met lots of people later in life, in their 70s and 80s, through the years. And they're like, just as you said, like, damn, I wish that I had done this when I was so much younger. And you know what? There's nothing we can do about any of that. But I think for me, there's the chance to live. It is possible to live. It is possible to be happy. It is possible to be joyful. It is possible to be peaceful. It is possible. It is possible to, I sometimes say this in the trainings that I do, like, if you turn back and look at your life, are you going to be dazzled? And, ooh, God, I don't know. Let me think about that. I'm saying it's possible. Now, my dazzle and somebody else's dazzle, there's no like one scale for that. But it is possible. But you've got to like get your ass out of the chair if you're going to do that. And that's not something you can lay around with, potato chips on the sofa watching TV all day long, 12 months of the year, and wonder why it's not. It actually takes something from each of us to be able to do that. So, and I think that's where courage fits in, as well as other things. And then the responsibility around that. It's nobody's job to make me happy. It's nobody's job nobody owes me anything. Angel and I talk about this all the time. Nobody owes you shit. Nobody owes you anything. Everybody's busy running their own lives. So for me, it's okay. If I buy that, then therefore it's my responsibility to go and engage in my life in a way to do that. And it doesn't mean I need to know everything, which is what this is all about too. Then find yourself in places to challenge you and stretch you and poke at you and all the stuff that happens inside of transformation.
Yeah. So we bring up a lot of the time here, we base a lot of decisions, life decisions and choices in our own life based on what we think someone's thinking of us. Mm-hmm. And you just touched on something that's so powerful. And I think that we all get a little bit more intentional around choice and not creating a comparison to what Cynthia's joy is and what Peter's joy is and what Leanna's joy is, and concentrate and stay in your own lane, and that's kind of what you're sharing. Can you just touch on that a little bit more about how you get that across within your programs? Because I think that was one of the main things that really clicked for me, that I kept living my life based on what I think people are thinking of what I think I should do. It's like the most absurd thought process when you really get real with yourself and realize that you're literally living your life based on what you think someone thinks, not based on what is true.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world with each other, so I think that there's some element of that that's always there. I think that that's also, I appreciate that. Like for me, well, one of the words that we use is feedback. So I'm all the time interested in other people's feedback about my choices. Does it mean I have to change my choices? No, but I also don't want to be like a runaway train. Screw you, this is what I'm doing. I mean, sometimes people behave that way, and I guess that's okay sometimes, but as a general thing, it's kind of exhausting. I think that, I know I've stopped choosing when I am suffering, when I am complaining, when I am bitching and gossiping, when I am resigned, I've stopped choosing. I stopped choosing. And so then obviously, whatever the time frame is for me to figure myself out, but then I'm faced with, am I choosing that or not? And it's also okay to stop choosing something, but how do you do that? Like, can you stop choosing something in a way that doesn't, that is responsible, is, loving, is mature, is, how do you do that? How do you exit from choices in a way that doesn't leave like a trail of garbage behind you? Like, how does one do that? But I think it's perfectly legitimate to change our choices. But I know for me, when I stopped choosing are the things that I said. And then I'm like, okay, well, nobody's got a gun to my head. So if I've been, complaining about the same shit for the last 2 years, okay, well, why? What's that about? And am I, what's the payoff? What am I getting out of it? Is it just for the sake of suffering? Which, I have a very long wick in terms of my capacity to suffer, which is one thing I wish I could change about myself, but it's okay. I'm working on it. But at some point I get there. It just feels like it takes me like half a lifetime to get there. But choice is something all of us have, and many of us don't know we have it. And then I think that leaves people, either unhappy or not as fulfilled as they could be in their life. I think choice is absolutely, that was such a liberating, transformational mind fuck when I first got with the idea of what that was. What do you mean? I got to choose those? That's my family? What? That's my choice? No, I'll choose yours, not that. So when I got that, then I'm like, all of a sudden, everything in my life was different, and it opened up actions and vision that wasn't there before. So I don't know.
What could you offer to people who are afraid to do the work, or think, this isn't for me, or I don't need to change? Do you love them where they're at, I should say? Or what do you have to offer?
Well, sure. I mean, unless you are actually the parent, none of us are the parents of anybody else. So everybody gets to choose whatever they want. For me, the conversation is around possibility. It's always around that. Like, what are you up to in your life? What are your commitments? What's your vision? When what are the places you've been afraid to step? I just want to say, I get the apprehension of participating in the work sometimes, but what's the fear about? Like, what actually, you didn't all of a sudden grow horns out of the side of your head because you did a weekend. It's a fucking seminar, when you sit in a chair, or in this case in your bedroom, and, and we talk, like, what actually is there to be afraid of? Now, if you're afraid that it's going to present you with some choices that you're not sure you want to confront yet, okay, I could get that. But okay, then how long are we going to wait? So that's partly my thing around the fear. Like, there's nothing, I mean, there's a lot to be afraid of, but primarily be afraid of staying on autopilot. That's really more scary to me than what it is to make a change and be, courageous in your life. And, around, I don't need it or whatever. I mean, I don't think that really anybody, I don't know if need it, don't need it. I'm not sure. For me, again, the question more is, what are you up to? What are you committed to? Nobody knows everything. Are you willing to be a student in life? Are you willing to be open? Are you willing to challenge yourself? Are you interested in a reflection of how you're living, and somebody saying to you, there are some gaps over here in your effect? Like, Like, grow up. Are you interested in some version of that conversation? And if you were, to what end? Like, what are you doing? What's your goal and your vision and the impact you're creating? What are the places in your own life where you'd like to turn the volume up? Whether turn the volume up on connection and love, or turn the volume up on success or finances, turn the volume up on, I meet so many people who've spent, years and years and years, like in a little bit of the woe is me and poor me and why isn't life working out for me? And nobody owes any of us shit. So if you want to create that, go and create it. All I'm saying is it's there. It's possible. There's a pathway. Okay. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And there's a lot of, conversations that empower you and give you tools that are practical, not just woo-woo and, like real shit, to get out and be better at how you communicate and be better at how you listen and be more disciplined around pursuing the things that matter to you and getting out in the world more broadly, or live in the world of reasons and excuses and poor me's. So I don't really dig the fear thing that much, because I just think if you really looked in the mirror and if you ever had the chance to face it, it's way more scary to stay like sedentary and on autopilot, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny because your experiences don't only touch us. It's like this massive like spread that touches everybody that we reach in our lives, whether they've done some of the programs or not. And I can share that with the world right now because I've seen it in my own life, and it's just interesting what happens, because if you have somebody in front of you that really does support you and is willing to make some of those shifts with you, and you shift, it's almost like they become accustomed to what you're getting to create. And I'm talking about my husband when I'm saying they, but he's almost become a mirror for me, where because I've been so grounded in my commitments to the things that I want to see happen, I don't always love it, but now he's like, what's that about? Like, I thought you said that. Like, he's always holding me accountable. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know this was going to happen. I thought it was just about me. For a hot sec, you do go into these things thinking that, but it's so much more massive, Peter, the things that you guys have been able to create. And I just want to share that, like, the spread is like global, and we see that even in the new programs that you guys have. Can you share a little bit about the international programs that have been happening for you? And I know you guys just launched in Spain as well, I believe. So I would love to hear about that.
In Spanish. So in Spanish, yeah. So we're one of the opportunities of this world is people don't have to come to New York City to attend Synergy, which was generally how it was. But no, in December, so earlier, a couple of weeks ago, we did our first level 1 in Spanish. Carla Vilches led it, and Nydia was there, and Albert was there, and lots of graduates were there. Glenda, I'm not sure she's still here, she was sharing about it. So lots of conversation around the weekend in Spanish. Nick Castronacas began with a program which we did in person 2 years ago. We went to Crete, and of his commitment, we did a basic and an advanced course back to back in Crete. And it was at the end of their tourist season. We had a hotel, it was primarily dedicated to us. There was about 25 graduates from New York who came with us and all wanted to be part of the experience. Of course, everybody made it into a vacation, which is what we did too, which is exactly what one would do. And ever since then, Nick has been leading virtually the level 1, level 2, and level 3. So he's in LPG 3, which is Leadership Program Greece number 3. And he just did a level 1 in December, and his next one is in January. He's relentless. He's unstoppable. He's amazing. So and in terms of all the other things that we're working on and creating, we do a lot of work thanks to, at the beginning, Yali Harari, who brought us to Israel, which I'd never been to Israel until like 5 years ago. Now I've been over 20 times in the last 5 years. Working, as I said, with, the teen was the most recent, or like just before COVID, working with nonprofits there, doing a lot of corporate work there. It's a big, after Silicon Valley, Israel is the second most, I don't know what the word is, intensive tech industry. And when you're there, it's like, it's buzzing. There's a buzz there, when you're in that environment where it's like hopping. So we're going there a lot. And, I'm excited to get back in person. We haven't done very much in person. In February is going to be our first in-person weekend for graduates of Synergy, which I'm, unless it's unwise, but let's just say that it's wise, and as we get closer, we'll be clearer about it. But right now we're proceeding as if it is. To be together with people again in person is just, it brings a different intimacy and different elements that you cannot capture online. And doesn't mean online isn't good. It doesn't mean it's not great, but it's just different. So I'm excited about that. So we're kind of all over, Cynthia, and this world has made that so much easier for us. We're doing work in Germany. We're doing work in, as I mentioned, in Greece, in Israel. We're doing work in California. We're doing work in Florida. We're doing work, where else? I don't know, lots of places. So we're kind of all over the place. And just like 2 weeks ago, somebody reached out to me from South Africa, who I haven't spoken to for, gosh, close to 20 years. Not really that much. No, more than 20 years. Yes, more than 20 years. Like 22, 23 years ago, I haven't spoken to her. And she was an amazing friend and an amazing support and an amazingly courageous woman. And we met her, she got involved with, our version of Synergy back then when we were in South Africa right after apartheid. And we just, in 2 seconds, were reconnected. And she was sharing about how her life, the last 25 years of her life, have been so different just because of the work that she had done and her efforts around her own transformation. And so anyway, yes, we're kind of all over, Cynthia. You know me, I like to go lots of places, and I really embrace diversity and diversity of cultures and diversity of points of view. So that's something that's one of my core values, is really a wide, opening arms wide to lots of different kinds of experiences.
I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I do just want to offer, in addition to these really powerful and transformational conversations, and I think you might have touched on this briefly, but I always think it's important to share that you're not just left hanging. Like, that there really does get to be this sense of community, not even this sense of community,
yeah.
and tools given to you to navigate beyond the present conversations that you show up in. And I think that is so important for people, because it's kind of like, all right, well, it's the now what. But you also, in helping people bring certain things to light, you support them along the way with here's some of the things that you can do in those now what situations.
Yes, and I think that's completely true. And there's part of what I've always valued about transformation is that I don't need anybody else for that question for myself. The now what? I ask myself that all the time. So I don't need anything. When I got that, then that's something that I've had throughout my life. And that is practical. It's not okay, say 5 things, Peter, you're good, Peter, you're great. No, it's not that. It's a constant challenge for me to figure out where are the gaps in my own way of being in my life. And one of the primary reasons when we began Synergy was to create that sense of community. And for me, in my own life, I had been in transformational work at that point, I don't know, 20 years. And I stepped back And it was interesting because after so many years of being deeply involved, and when I stepped back for various reasons. I didn't want to travel. I was in that, at that time, it was a new relationship with Angel, like a year or two. You know, I was away a lot. I didn't want to do that. So I kind of stepped out of leading, and I stepped out of this work. And it was interesting to me because after like a year, um, I was so missing the environment that this creates, the environment of connection, the environment of feedback, the environment of intimacy, you know, and I've always had, like, you know, close friends. It's not that, but the broader, like, new points of view every week, every month, like an entirely different human being that I wouldn't have in my life. And it gives me different points of view. So I was missing that. And that's one of the reasons why that for me, the sense of community is absolutely central to, again, my own core values and our own mission. Some of my, not some, my oldest and dearest friends to this day are people that were in some of the programs I attended 35 years ago. And they have been in my life ever since. Like, you guys will be in each other's lives forever. And my friends have been in my life ever since then. And, you know, we got over the intimacy of this, we got deeply connected, and that has always stayed. So that sense of community and connection is also very key for me.
Amazing. I'd love to leave everyone here at our courageous community just a little bit more personal, because you created a beautiful life with adversity and challenges, health challenges, and I know that you and Angel created your children. I mean, that's powerful. And I think that had it not been for your dedication to yourself and taking responsibility for your life and really being very intimately connected to this work, life would have probably looked a lot different for you. But that's also living very courageously and showing all of us that it's possible to live in this work and do the way that you have in your life.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So when I made a choice to get back into this work was when my closest friend, who I lived in South Africa with, and we were all, the minute that I met her, we were kindred spirits, up to the same thing, interested in the same thing, bad in the same way, you know, liked the same, you know, vices. And so we were like that right out of the gate. And so 12 years or so ago, she and I both were diagnosed with cancer in the same week. Unfortunately, hers was far more serious, with pancreatic cancer, and she passed within 3 months of that diagnosis. And for me, I was able to have a remedy with surgery, etc. So it was after that time when I made a choice to get back into transformational work again. I just thought that it wasn't like I had some big epiphany. You know, because sometimes people will describe it that way. You know, I saw my life before me and I radically changed. It wasn't really like that for me. It was just, no, that transformation has been the most meaningful work in my life, been the most meaningful times in my life. So I just wanted back in. And so we created Synergy. And so I think that, again, the work of transformation gave me tools and gave me relationships to be able to navigate that time in my life as best as I could. Anyway, I don't know how great or bad or whatever, but as best as I could. And then, you know, a few years later, our daughter, when she was 5, was also diagnosed with cancer, with leukemia. And so that was a 2 to 3 year journey through, for me, hell of, you know, a depth of despair and negativity that was difficult for me to navigate within myself, and resignation. And again, that community conversation, there were people around us that kind of held us up during that time. And maybe others would have dealt better. I dealt with it the way that I dealt with it, and I don't make myself wrong about it. It's fine. That's just how it was. But, I look back, and Synergy continued to thrive and exist today because of so many other people who were within our Synergy community who wanted to hold Synergy up as well. And, my daughter's now 13 and a half and doing amazing, and a very wise young woman. So I think that, it's been, and yes, Angel and I created our family. I was in my early 40s, mid 40s when we decided to have kids. And I wanted to adopt. He wanted biological children, which I didn't care. I'm like, okay, he's Latin, so maybe that's like something. I hope that's not, so anyway, we did. So his sister was an egg donor with me, and my niece was an egg donor with him. We had a gestational surrogate. The clinic had never done it that way, with kind of cross directions at the same time. So our three girls, we have three girls, are all our genetically related children. We ended up setting legal precedent in the state of Connecticut where they were born, because when Charlotte was born, the Attorney General of Connecticut sued our case to say, no, we couldn't be on the birth certificate. So in other words, the other one of us would have to adopt. And there were some challenges with that, but also we were like, well, no, fuck you. So we went to court and we won. So we're on the state of Connecticut as having set precedent for the state of Connecticut, and on and on. We could go on for another hour about the story of raising children. But anyway, that's just a little bit of background. But community, April, community and loving friends and commitment, to like, keep pressing forward and keep living life purposefully, and not, and give up sometimes, but then get up. So, that.
Amen. What a beautiful place to leave. What a beautiful place to leave. You heard him. Go out there.
Right?
Live that life.
Get up.
Get up.
Peter, we adore you.
I adore you.
Beyond words. I love you to pieces, and congratulations on being recognized.
Thank you
and
very much.
thank you for all of your contribution, and just for just existing.
And you guys can contribute to Synergy Youth Empowerment. The link is in our bio, as well as in the comments of this video. We will give you a way to donate. We donate every time we do something. We donate to Synergy Youth Empowerment, and we definitely encourage you guys to do that, because without our youth, we ain't nothing. Go live courageously, peeps. We love you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye, you guys.